Today we are reading from day 4 of A Gracious Space Spring, and it is called Focus on the Child, Not the Project. Are you ready? Here we go. I want to let you in on the fruit of a lot of late night reading and middle of the night insomnia. The question pawing at me like a nocturnal kitten: what works in parenting? I'm plumb worn out from the sad accounts of kids who are clearly bright, sharp adults who rendered the verdict on their childhoods: thumbs down. I know that we parents come into the task completely green. Sure, we were parented, but we rarely feel qualified to be parents on that basis alone. We head off to websites and books, retreats and conferences, looking for models that will ensure that our children will have good lives and grow up to be responsible, cheerful people. We want guarantees because life is fraught with chaos and surprises, both welcome and unwelcome. We trust experts and friends and religious leaders and therapists and anyone who seems authoritative and successful in their own right. We trust methods untested. We hope we are doing right by our kids. What I am starting to see, though, is this odd trajectory. The kids who claim to have had happy childhoods were not their parents' projects. Rather, the children who grow up to be successful, happy adults are the ones whose projects were absorbing to their parents. See what I did there? In other words, if you focus more on the stuff that you and your kids care about, the big wide world of learning, books, birds, boats, Beowulf, beauty, bobcats, Broadway, battles, buoyancy, bodies, baked goods, Barbies, and Bilbo, and those are just some of the subjects starting with the letter B, you will create a much more bonded relationship with your children, and they will learn how to be competent adults. All the character training you impose, expect, exact, and create through whatever parenting method you choose can never result in the kind of child and eventual adult that you and they truly want. As it turns out, focusing on how to parent your child is less powerful than joining your child in the shared adventure of living. In the end, what leaves the best impression on your kids is your hearty, enthusiastic participation in the stuff of life and sharing those experiences with them as though they are welcome and a constitutive part of your own experience. Some of that exploration will be parent-led, some of it will be child-led, but all of it will be experienced with wide-eyed wonder, a lack of judgment, no more does Minecraft really count, are Barbies dangerous, and an investment of the time that really matters, not the time that could go to other stuff like chores, bedtime, math, pages, and bath. Our homeschools thrive when learning is what we care about more than parenting. Ironically, being a good parent gets tossed into the bargain when we do. Punishment, teaching responsibility, lectures about character, holding kids accountable to adult standards of behavior, these don't seem to produce the results we think they will. But jumping into the middle of an adventure, reading, playing a video game, building a bonfire, hiking, calculating to produce a quilt, joining a dance company, visiting the zoo every week, playing with words, baking cookies, acting out scenes from Shakespeare. These do more to parent your kids than you realize. Go forth and be interested in life. Bring your kids along. They'll thank you for it when they get older. Quote of the day. I've been struggling. This is so perfect. Simple is best. Real life is best. Thank you. Kelly, Ray, Nolan, Morgan Weck. Sustaining thought. Share your interest in life and spark that interest in your kids. You'll all be richer and happier for it. Awesome. So today's reading is really all about keys to success in parenting. We typically think more information about psychology or child development is the key in developing great kids. What I want to suggest to you instead is that you will do more parenting that is effective and powerful if you engage in your children's lives and spend time with them collaborating around the things they care about. So often, our primary goal of parenting is independence and character. We want them to be able to work on their own, and we want them to be just, kind, good people. But the odd thing is that goodness, justice, kindness, those don't just show up all by themselves in isolation from activity or experiences with friends. On the contrary, the character development of your children shows up when they are engaged in the activities of life. And if you are urging independence, you're not there to contribute to the character growth. You're not present to admire, notice, remind, guide, lead. Think for a moment of a child that you put in a co-op class and they have a paper due. And they keep stalling and putting it off, and then they don't turn it in, and you hear from the teacher that the child never did the work. How can you help that child become a persistent, committed to the deadline child if you weren't a part of any of that process and only found out on the back end? The typical parental route then is to punish. All right, you're grounded. You have to learn how to turn in papers on time. And because you didn't do it, now you can't play video games. But isn't that backwards? Wouldn't it have been a better use of your parenting and relationship with your child to be a part of the collaboration of producing that paper, or being engaged enough to know what was coming and to converse with your child about it? How will you turn in that paper by Monday? What's your plan for when you're going to draft it and then revise it? What helps you achieve that goal? Can you imagine that parenting at the front end? We tend to think of it like there are two options. The child does it without our interference and help and then gets punished if they don't do a good job, or we're being too helpful and therefore taking over the project. But that's not parenting. Parenting is actually being a responsible, invested person in your child's activities while they're still living at home. If they're taking piano, collaborating around, well, what time of day is good for you to practice? How much energy can you give in one sitting? Are 2 15-minute periods better than 1 half-hour? For an 8-year-old, that might be the case. You might ask, would you rather be reminded, or would you like to have your own watch where you can set the alarm and have it go off to tell you when to go to the piano? What strategy would you like to use to become good at practicing piano? But that's not how we think. We don't think about helping our kids develop those strategies. We think about punishing them for not successfully executing the expectations on them. Do you hear what I'm saying? School is totally organized this way. So there's the assignment. There's no consultation to help with the assignment or how to plan the assignment or how to fit it into the already busy life of the student. Then there's the deadline. In some classes, there's a grace period. In most classes, there is not. There's penalty for each day that it's late. And then if it's never turned in, there's failure. And the idea is that if you get an F, the next time an assignment comes, you'll be motivated because you don't want an F. But does that help the student any more in strategizing for the next overwhelming burden of producing a paper? Well, it doesn't. But you're home educators. You get to do this differently. You get to talk with your kids. You get to be a beneficial part of their journey. If you have a child who says, my main ambition is to beat X number of levels on a video game, you could use that to your advantage. You could treat that like an opportunity to grow character and to learn how to pace oneself. Cool. You want to get to level 11, you're at level 5. How many weeks do you think that would take? How many hours? Well, let's time this next level and see. And then we're going to project how long it takes to get to a level 11. Can you pay attention to when you get worked up? Because maybe it's helpful to build in breaks while you're working on this. What do you think a good strategy is for having breaks for when you get too tense? Do you need a snack? Do you need to take the dog for a walk? Would you like to do this video gaming at night after school's all done and everybody else is in bed? Or would you rather do it first thing in the morning or at the lunch hour? What if you collaborated with this thing that you really hate and you saw it as an opportunity to parent, to help your children gain some self-awareness and self-control so that they could meaningfully grow into that independence you crave for them? We tend to put them at the edge of the diving board, and when they won't dive in, we just push them in. We're like, you were supposed to dive, boom. When, if they were in diving school, they would learn about bouncing on the board and walking back off of it. They'd bounce and then jump in. They'd bounce and then they would jump in and make a big splash and then a small splash. They might have the teacher come up and hold them at the waist while they bend over and then hold back their feet so their head goes in. But that's not how we parent. We tend to put them on the diving board and push them off, and then the next time we say, get up there and do it, and I'm not going to watch. And then if we never hear the splash, we punish them for not jumping. But we don't want that. What we want is that sense of camaraderie and journey and process together. You're sort of the guide, the person who's been down the road a little bit, who's already dived into the pool. And now you are coaching them on how to be prepared, how to incrementally plan, how to pay attention to when you are at your best and when you're at your worst, how to juggle multiple demands in a day. Kids have their schoolwork for you, but they've also got a secret agenda, the things they really want to do. And you know what those are. They can't wait to get to lacrosse practice. They want to just go back to watching a few more episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants. And so that's interfering with copy work, with the math pages. And then we blame them. We're like, well, I was so nice. I let you have an hour of SpongeBob. Why aren't you giving me an hour of math? That's not how it works. The calculus of childhood doesn't work that way. They're not waiting to affirm you for all your fabulous homeschool planning. And children don't think that way. What they think is, I have this mom making me do the thing I don't want to do when really I want to do this other thing. But what if we, opened Pandora's box and talked about it? And we said, over here, these are the things that I would like to see happen in your life. Over here, these are the things you're looking forward to. How can we bring those together? What would that look like? And what would happen if you actually took your child's advice and ideas? If your child said to you, well, I really hate doing 15 problems. It's too many. And you said, well, how many problems do you think you could handle? As opposed to, well, you have to do 15, or, okay, fine, 12. What if you asked the child, how many do you think you could do today? One idea is to actually have a calendar and have your child each day just pick a number of problems in math that they think they can do. And over time, add those up. And your child could see after a week, wow, I did 65 problems this week. And it came in, a group of 10, and then 3, and then 12, and then 5, based on their energy level. But over a whole week, they saw they did 65. Wouldn't that be amazing? We don't think that way. We don't help our children to come to these celebratory moments because we're so busy parenting. We're so punitive. We're so worried that they're not doing what they should. We're so discouraged by their bad attitudes. Do you understand what I'm saying? What you want to do is collaborate with your children. Give them exactly what they need. Give them hope, heart, encouragement, a plan, incremental progress, your faith that they can grow and become stronger, that they can persist. Sometimes we're so busy monitoring the bad feelings. Like, how can I get rid of this bad feeling with a brownie? And of course, I've mentioned, bring in brownies, bring in, music. Try and sweeten the deal. I like to call it sweetening the deal. But if you have a child in that state where they can't do it, they don't want to do it, they feel frustrated, couldn't you also remind them of their strengths? This reminds me of you at soccer practice. I know how hard it is for you getting that ball in the net. And you know what? I counted. And last time you kicked it 12 times before it went in. That shows me how persistent you can be. When you want something, there's no stopping you. So I know right now you don't want math in that same way. How can we help you want it? Because I know you have what it takes. What if we build up, just like we built up that skill in soccer? Like that. Talking about the skill, the character quality, the vision, borrowing from a strength to help shore up a weakness. This is what I mean. Focus on the project, not on your child. Don't focus on your child as a failure, lacking in character, a discipline problem, someone who thwarts your best plans, who doesn't appreciate all the enchanted education you're laying before them. That doesn't get you anywhere. What gets you somewhere is entering into whatever the project is with your child. And at home, yippee, we can. You can sit with them. You know, one of the suggestions I have for math, I'm giving math advice today for some strange reason, is to read ahead in the book. You know, if you've got a kid between kindergarten and 5th grade, pretty much everything a workbook teaches can be taught without the workbook. So figure out, well, what is this math concept and how can I introduce it in a tactile way, in a way that feels really good, like active, practical, applicable. So if it's fractions, why wouldn't you start with making a baby quilt or a quiche or pizza and playing with different shapes? You could make 5 pizzas and cut them, say, how do we cut this into 8ths? How do we cut this into 16ths? You could look at different shapes and determine how that would work before you get into the meat of how to find a common denominator. And yes, you'll need to do that at some point, and you might want to use Cuisenaire rods, and you might want to use your worksheets to practice. But what if we engaged the imagination before we just went straight for the rules and the practices and the theorems? We're so in love with abstraction, and we so discount the time it takes to do something practical, don't we? We think, I don't have time to make a quiche. You know what you don't have time for? The tantrum. You have time for quiche. You don't have time for the tantrum, the rolled eyes, the kicking your feet under the table, the picking a fight with the sister, the boredom, the irritation, I won't cooperate for the rest of the day because you made me do math. You don't have time for that. You have time for quiche because quiche is fun. Quiche is interesting. Quiche invites. That's what you want. You want invitations. Will you do this right every day? No, of course not. And there are some days where you just don't have time for anything. You're just wanting it done because today's one of those days and you got to get it done. And those days happen. So here's my second tip. On the days when you're just worksheet woman and you just want to click through stuff, don't require your kids to be happy about it. Here's the axis. Here's the way it works. You don't get to coerce and require happiness at the same time. If you're going to coerce, expect some blowback. They're not going to be happy. If you require them to do the thing they don't want to do, you can't also require cooperation, happiness, getting along, behaving the way you want them to. If you want happiness, you can't coerce. You've got to invite. You've got to set the stage. You've got to sweeten the deal. You've got to nurture a context. Do you see where I'm going here? We want it all. We want our kids to follow the plan, do the schedule, not complain, be happy, be grateful, and totally learn to do that independent of us, which is bizarre because nothing in adulthood works that way. You collaborate in a marriage, you collaborate in your job, you collaborate with the friends who are helping you coach the soccer team. Nobody does anything alone, truly. Do you see what I mean? And we always have the opportunity to have a bad attitude when we're an adult. We do. You can grumble your way through your job. Your boss isn't over there saying, and I need you to smile. That's not how it works. You know, unless their job is customer service where they have to smile doing the job. But they inwardly don't have to agree or like it. They can wish they were working somewhere else. It's only in the family where we have this weird bargain that says children are on task when they're doing what adults tell them to do with a smile. To us, that's perfection, but it is anti-human. It's just not fair. It doesn't go with human beings. So what I began with in this reading today is that I had been reading all of these, lovely essays by kids who had grown up in very coercive homeschool families. And unfortunately for these kids, they did not have the experience of a happy childhood. They had good educational outcomes, a lot of them. There were many very brilliant writers. But the feeling was sort of a straitjacket because the parents weren't just expecting them to finish their work. They had to also pretend to be happy about it. And your opportunity, if you choose to accept it, is to take your children as human beings, total, as Charlotte Mason says, total persons already. They're not adults in training. They're not trying to be adults yet. They are fully complete persons from the time they're born. And within that personhood, they have choices, freedom of self-expression, the opportunity to create and grow, the opportunity to agree and disagree, to like and not like. And if you have a schedule or a set of expectations for your kids, and it's not the one that matches theirs, two options. You can modify what you hope to achieve by looking for another door into your child's heart, something that animates, captivates, draws in the imagination of the child, or you can require, you just can't expect them to be happy about it. That's what I leave you with today. So for today, maybe think about what you can do to be invested in that child's activity. How can you come alongside? How can you parent within that context? How can you give your kids a sense of real pleasure in their lives so that as they're learning these skills of self-discipline, habit, projecting the future and anticipating it incrementally with activity, how can you take advantage of something they already love in their lives and use it for that process rather than pairing up what they hate with all of these other actions that you want them to grow in character? Make sense? Okay? So Brave Writer right now is in spring semester. We have three brand new classes that still have openings. The Scoop, The Art of Journalism, Skip into Science, and Write for Fun, Fly High. All three of these are brand new classes and they will be so much fun. The journalism class is for high school. The Skip into Science is for middle school. And the Write for Fun, Fly High is for like late elementary and junior high. Each of those classes is taught by wonderful instructors, and I know your kids will have a great time in them. We also have a Boomerang Book Club open in June for To Kill a Mockingbird. So if you have ninth graders or older who have yet to read that book, this is your annual chance to read it in conversation as a discussion. It's always full, always a fabulous time, but right now it's still open, so feel free to join. Cindy and I are setting the fall schedule, and it should be up by May. Fall registration opens the first Monday in August, but we also do have a summer session. Can't get all these words out. Summer session, and the opening day for registration for that is Monday, June 7th, I believe. It's the first Monday in June. You can look for those sessions. We are slowly populating the online class board with those classes. So we offer all the usuals: Kids Write Basic, Kids Write Intermediate, fan fiction, expository essay, etc., etc. Live honestly, write bravely, partner with your kids in their projects, and see the best parenting emerge. I'm Julie Bogart from Brave Writer. Thanks for joining me today.